Caution: this game contains scenes of violence and gore, as well as depictions of criminal acts. These acts are strictly punished by law. Please do not attempt to imitate them. This game also contains themes of sexual violence and self harm. This game is a work of fiction. Any relationship to real persons, groups, places, or crimes is coincidental. Was I dreaming? Even though it had been white only a moment ago, the sky was dyed red. The world itself had turned into a rusty vermilion. This couldn't be real. It just had to be another delusion. Or at least that was what I tried to tell myself. All across the sky, I could see clouds upon clouds of black miasma. They seemed almost humanoid in shape. They had to be illusions. Though even if they were unusually vivid, the clouds of haze spontaneously flickered in and out of sight. Even when I thought one had disappeared, it would pop up somewhere else a moment later. The blots of black miasma were innumerable. Just looking at them made me feel uncomfortable. And there was this intense, rotten smelling stench. It was so bad and nearly brought me to vomit. I didn't want to be here for even a second longer. That feeling was as strong as could be. When I came to, the sky had brightened up a little, and Shibuya had transformed into a city of death. AH Hospital was still standing, but cracks ran up the walls, and the interior was in complete disarray. I only barely managed to make it out. The entrance to the outpatient clinic was swarmed with ambulances. The place was overflowing with people trampling over each other, fighting for medical attention. When I'd woken up, Ayase smiled and said, "Let us return to Shibuya." It had been just before 6 a.m. at that point, which meant that I'd been out for over 10 hours. Yua's body was nowhere to be found. I asked Ayase if she knew what happened to it, but she didn't seem to know. Shibuya was hardly a 5-minute train ride from Yoyogi, but due to the earthquake, all transport was on halt. The railroad had been torn to shreds, meaning there was no way it was going to be restored within the day. So we were forced to walk, something that was way harder than it sounds. The road was full of holes, and rubble from fallen buildings was constantly in our way. It was so difficult to even walk in a straight line. As a result, the trip back to Shibuya ended up being a 3-hour struggle. The surrounding area had been completely annihilated. Almost all the buildings had collapsed. Countless bodies were strewn about all around us. They were so pitiful I couldn't stand to look at them. There were also a number of people still alive. Some were, like us, just wandering along in complete shock, while others were crouched by the rubble, waiting for help to arrive. And of course, there were many people clinging on to dead bodies as they bawled their eyes out. Even though they had survived, they all still seemed dead, like the trauma had drained them of every ounce of life they'd once had. The terrible odor of blood and dust filled the air, making even the act of breathing completely unbearable. Was this Glacial's doing? Was Glacial the name of the earthquake, maybe? I suppose that would make sense. They always gave their hurricanes names in America, like Andrew or... That's fucked up. Was this how Ayase wanted things to end? Was this the ending she wished to reach? Then again, if you wanted to bring about the apocalypse, this would probably be the best way to do it. But there was no way a single person could cause a catastrophe on this scale. Even the powers of a gigalomaniac, or a black knight as Ayase liked to call them. She'd said that the world shall fuse and all shall be consolidated or whatever, but what exactly had she meant by that? While following behind Ayase through the city, I took a peek at the side of her face. Unsurprisingly, even Ayase had turned pale when faced with the current state of Shibuya. She walked in silence, clenching her jaw as if trying to endure an intense pain. Listen up, everyone. This place is dangerous. We all have to hurry to the evacuation site. A middle-aged man in a suit was screaming into the crowd. He was calling out to all the survivors in the area, us included. If you stay here waiting for help, night'll hit before you know it. But if you go now, you can make the evacuation site before then. Please don't stay here any longer. Even if it hurts to stand, you've got to get up and get out of here. We've escaped death once now. We owe it to the dead to keep on living. I like this guy. Where the hell had that old guy gotten so much energy from? A few people listened and started moving toward him, but most people stayed put. Ayase didn't even look at him. She just kept moving on toward her destination, and I had no choice but to follow. Suddenly, I felt a throbbing pain in my forehead. Ever since we'd left Yoyogi, I'd been getting headaches just like this. Please stand up! Why aren't you listening? It's dangerous. You get crushed by the rubble. I just want all of you to survive. My head hurt. What the fuck? Suddenly, the world was dyed red once more. The sky was covered by vermilion clouds. It was the exact same thing I'd seen in my dream. The asphalt of the road, the concrete of the debris, the buildings, the shattered glass on the ground, the abandoned, broken down cars, the uprooted trees from the sidewalk. All of it had been corroded, overtaken by rust. Maniacal laughter echoed throughout the area. It was coming from the same person who had just been trying to get everyone to take refuge just a second ago. His body was covered in a cloud of black miasma, but it wasn't just him. Excluding the dead bodies, there were clouds of miasma around everyone I could see. The hazes were nearly human-sized. They swayed back and forth rhythmically, each one unusually vivid. It was a horrifying sight. It was exactly like in my dream. That man's laughter was starting to annoy me. Looking back toward him, I noticed that for some odd reason, he had an assault rifle pointed straight at me. The police are gone. I can kill as many people as I want. He started to wrangle. I immediately hit the ground. I'd been shot. Or so I thought. I had undoubtedly been standing right in front of his line of fire. But I didn't feel any pain. I lifted my head to double check. Please, just go to the evacuation site. They have water, food, and blankets too. There's no reason to stay here. He wasn't holding a gun anymore. He was just pleading with the crowd around him. So please, keep on fighting to survive. Don't die in vain. But it all changed so suddenly. For a split second, the man's body was covered in static. Before the static, he had raised his hand up in the air, but after it, that hand was holding a gun. Doing so was quickly and unhumanly possible. It was barely even coherent. It couldn't possibly be real. It was almost like watching a movie with several jarringly jump cuts. Oh, like the FNAF 2 movie. And then he started firing again. The people that were shot fell to the ground, blood spurting everywhere. Their screams echoed throughout the air. And yet, somehow, none of the bullets were hitting me. It really felt like I was in a movie. It wasn't real life. Takumi? My first girlfriend. When I heard my name, I came back to my senses. Ayase was staring at me. She looked like she was about to say something. But in the end, she didn't. She simply turned her back and kept on walking. I took a look at the sky. It was cloudy, but not red. The surrounding scenery was overcast by a dark gray, no vermilion in sight. The shooter had gone back to pleading with everyone to evacuate. All the people who had been shot were now unharmed, but none of them were engulfed by the black miasma. What the hell had just happened? Another one of my delusions? Had been, then I must have really lost my touch. The delusion hadn't even been slightly realistic. It'd been like a movie or a video game or something. Takumi, hurry. Ayase urged me forward. Where the hell was she going anyway? Was she heading for the evacuation site that one guy was yelling about? But if that was true, then she wasn't going the right way. Instead, she was heading right to the Inokashira line station. What the hell was she thinking? We're going to go get Sena and Ayase's D-swords because they're dead down here, probably. There were no staff members at the station, and the trains were all stopped in place. Ayase made her way down to the tracks and started walking along them. Naturally, the tunnel was pitch black. It wasn't designed to be traversed on foot, after all. It hadn't collapsed yet, but it felt like it was only a matter of time before it did. I would have never imagined that. I would have ended up walking on railroad tracks like this. One adventure, though. They should make a movie about it. Wait, pretty sure there already was one. Granted, it come out before I was born, so I probably hadn't seen it. I just knew it was about some people walking down railroad tracks to find a body. Are we fucking kidding? A Stand By Me reference? Meanwhile, walking through this underground tunnel wasn't nearly as exciting. If we continued along this route, we'd eventually pass the Shinsen by the Shinsen, Komaba, Toraime, Ikenoe, and Shimokitazawa stations. Getting in and out of Shibuya had been made incredibly difficult, so using the subway tunnels was actually a pretty good escape plan. But we started in Yoyogi, and now we were heading toward Shibuya, so something told me that ISA wasn't using this as an escape route.
あの
Where are we
どこへ
going?
行くの
深センの駅
Shinsen Station. What the hell was the point of going there? Maybe she was planning to head to Suimei from there, or maybe my base. Actually, I never told her where my base was, so probably not the next one. Speaking of which, I wonder if Sedaten had survived, and what if the Kurenai conference hall had collapsed because of the earthquake? Oh god, all my poor waifus would be covered in rubble. Suddenly, my trivial concerns were interrupted by a bright light. Is Suwa dead down here too? There was a railroad crossing right before Shinsen Station, where light from the sky peeked in from above. After the crossing, the rails went into a dark tunnel. Then after that, it was the Shinsen Station platform. The lights of the platform were out, likely due to the earthquake. It was pretty damn dark. There was almost no one around. All I could see were two girls sitting on the platform. Judging by their uniforms, they were Suimei students. Ayase approached them without a hint of hesitation. Maybe she knew them or something. As we got closer, their figures and the darkness became clearer. My brow furrowed. Felt like I had seen them somewhere before. Then I realized exactly who they were. Senna! Kozupi! But something was wrong with them. No, they should have been able to hear us coming, but they didn't even turn to look at us. No, they just sat there, their heads looking down at the ground, not moving.
セナコズピ
Their hearts have also been killed. I tried calling out to them, but the two still didn't respond. What the hell was up with them?
黒騎士の
The hearts of the Black Knights are soon to perish. What the fuck?
だから回収
So
す
we
る
must retrieve them. The D-Swords. Wait, no fucking way! I rushed over to the two girls in a panic, then peered into Senna's eyes. Senna's eyes were devoid of life. They were completely hollow. With no life left within them, they stared into nothingness. Those sharp eyes of hers, always glaring at everyone and everything. Not a single trace of them remained. She was trying to murmur something, but her voice was so incredibly faint. All that came out was a mere croak. I couldn't make out a single word she'd said. Kozupi was the same. The light behind her eyes had died out. Mouth hung open, drool trickling down her cheek. She tried to speak, but her voice was too hoarse to understand. Something had happened to them. What the hell was going on in this city? I was absolutely clueless, so I turned to Ayase for answers, but she didn't seem remotely interested in their fates. Their D-swords were lying nearby. Ayase took her own sword and brought it near them. The same shrill sound from before reverberated through the station. The three D-swords began to warp and transform. Then came the shockwave, assaulting my body like a fierce gust of wind. Once it passed, Ayase was holding Senna and Kozupi's swords. That little handle there, was that always there? It looks like the ending to Takumi's sword. Like the hilt of it.
これで
But I guess it was always there, considering it's on it when she's holding it right now. That makes 6. Blushing in apparent arousal, Ayase looked at me.
匠
Takumi,
あと
the only one left is
君が
yours.
手に入れるだけ
You must obtain it. How the hell could she be so calm right now? My frustration was then met by the same throbbing pain in my head as before. The world turned red once again. Everything began rusting, rotting, and eroding away. I could smell the strong odor coming from Kozupi. Kozupi slowly rose up from the ground. Her hair was dyed red. Was that blood or rust?
殺してやる
Kozupi raised her head. Her face was covered by a black miasma. The sheer bloodthirst coming from her was terrifying. Kozupi stretched out her thin arms as if to try and strangle me. But when I blinked, she had somehow ended up back on the ground. Her head hanging downward, she had an indescribable expression on her face. Static rang in my ears. Kozupi instantly teleported beside me. The black miasma grazed my shoulder. A ghastly cold sent a chill down my spine.
殺してやる
Kozupi's gonna kill you. Kozupi's gonna kill everyone.
ちゃんも
You're next, Takumi-san.
2つ大変
Kozupi's mirror will shred you to pieces. Her whispers were emotionless and robotic, but that only made them all the more horrifying. I blinked once more. Senna's body was slumped over on the ground. She had been cut to pieces. Kozupi violently swung her arms and then stabbed Senna in the head with a shard of glass. Dark blood stained Senna's long, beautiful black hair. Kozupi then raised a piece of glass in the air and stabbed her once more. Static. Now Kozupi was on the ground instead of Senna-an. Senna had mounted a homeless man out of nowhere. Her head was buried in his shoulder. Her head was moving up and down constantly. What was she doing? Her face was covering... So I really couldn't tell. That is, until she finally looked up. The man's shoulder was stained with blood. His flesh looked like minced ground beef, and I could even make out a little bit of pink muscle glistering from within. Wait, no, was it blood? Muscle? Rust?
母おいしいよ
Senna finally turned around, and I could now see blood surrounding her mouth. She was chewing on something, devouring it. Senna no Uta. My legs trembled, and the second I lost my balance and collapsed to the ground, the world returned to its original color. My headache vanished too. I pressed my hand against my forehead and shook my head intensely. I felt extremely sick, like I was about to vomit. It didn't really feel like a panic attack or shock or anything like that. It was more like a poison was slowly trickling through my veins, spreading through my entire body. One that hit me with a horrible sinking feeling that weighed heavily on my mind. I raised my hand and looked at Senna and Kozupi. They were still where they had been originally, on the ground, motionless.
どうしたの
What happened? Ayase held out her hand. It was the same look from earlier, one that told me she had something more to say. I took her hand and stood up from the ground. We left Senna and Kozupi as they were. I wanted to help them, but I didn't really have the strength to do so, and Ayase just didn't care in the slightest. We made our way back towards Shibuya Station. On the way, we found countless wounded people on the ground and just as many dead bodies lying around. Ayase looked up to the sky with her usual distant expression. Trying to stave off my nausea, I asked her a question.
綾瀬は
What sort of ending are you aiming for here, Ayase?
血
Ending? Rimi was missing in action. Senna and Kozupi had their minds broken. Ayase had already taken the D-swords from all the Gigalomaniac girls, or maybe stolen was appropriate. She had to have orchestrated all of it. How could she have not? There was no way she just happened to find a bunch of D-swords after the count mind-broken Gigalomaniacs. There was just no way. If she was behind it all, then the earthquake was also her doing, and Gladio was just a legend she'd made up.
このじ
Can you say that this earthquake isn't your delusion? You wanted this to happen, didn't you?
望んでたんでしょ
そうね
I wonder.
なん
What do
で
you...
こんな
Why would you wish for this?
匠
Do not rush to
結
conclusions,
論を急が
Takumi.
ないすでに
All of this was foretold by Ziegler.
杉村によって私はそ
I
れを
only happen to know of it. That's all there is to it.
グラジオ
That Gladio book has to be a delusion.
そんな
That book doesn't exist anywhere else. Actually, it does. The page told you explicitly that it was just no longer being printed in Japan.
匠も見た
But you
はず
saw it, Takumi, in my hospital room.
あ見た
Yeah, I saw it, but it was completely blank.
匠に
You were merely unable to read it, Takumi.
そんなの
There's no way. It's that simple. You have to be lying. You can't fool me. Nigga, can you stop shitting on her beliefs?
世界は
There are 6.7 billion worlds. Okay, so that bullshit that I ranted on about how everybody has their own world and version of it all the way back when I was like, and that's why everything's happening right now, because everybody's world is, that's what that's what Ayase here also thinks is happening.
つまり人類の全人口
As many as there are people,
異なっているの
what can be done, what can be seen in each one differs from world to world.
全く同一
No
な
two
こと
can
はない
ever be identical.
匠と私
So
は
neither can yours and mine.
俺が
If that's
本当だ
true,
って言うな
then
ら
link me your sources, but you can't, can you?
無理なん
This nigga really told a girl. Source? Ayase stared at me, then furrowed her brow. She seemed a little perplexed. It was almost like she was forcing herself to not show any emotion.
見たいの
Do you wish to see it?
私が見
The
たい
world that I
世界
see. If that's possible, then yeah. Though I doubt I believe what you show me anyway.
違うわ
You misunderstand, Takumi.
君は
You can already see my world.
すでに見ている私の世界
Little by little, you are beginning to synchronize with
少し
it.
ずつ同期し始
What are you? The world rusted over once more. Those collapsed on the ground were engulfed by a black miasmata. I could see the head of a child crushed by the debris poking out through the cracks. A man who was probably their dad trying to save them. Static rang in my ears again. And then in an action that was incomprehensible to me, this dad stomped on the child's head. The head splint open like a watermelon and was subsequently crushed by their father's foot. Blood and gray matter splashed onto the ground. The static came again, and now the child's head was completely intact. I could still hear their dad call out to them. Hold on, I'll get you out of here. Static. The child had escaped from the rubble, and now they were stabbing their father over and over again. You're useless, you old fuck! They jeered. A young couple were sitting in some remote spot. The two were under the same blanket, huddled right next to each other. When the static came again, it was engulfed the two of them, and the man began to rape her. Her screams echoed loudly throughout the city. The screams stopped with more sounds of static, but the two back together as if nothing happened. Two middle-aged women were limping down the road. They were likely sisters. Static flashed, and one of them grabbed the other by the hair in an instant. She began to yank on it in an attempt to unroot it completely. Then, with the fierce sound of tearing, she mostly succeeded. Static flashed again, and her hair was back to normal. What the hell is this?
私
It is my world. It was her world? It wasn't my delusion, but Ayase's? Wait, was it even a delusion, or was it reality? A black miasma was hovering over Ayase's chest too, but really I didn't want to see any of them anymore, so I instinctively looked away.
匠の見ていた
What color is the sky you normally see, Takumi? What do you mean, color? It's blue.
あんな色
Is that blue? Ayase pointed up to the sky. It was a shade of red. That's vermilion.
灼熱
Vermilion.
ビルあの色が
So that color is not blue?
青じゃないの
Literally, Ayase's entire route is just, hey guys, so what if, like, people see green as different things? Ask anyone, they'll tell you that it's not.
でも
But to me, that color is blue.
あの色が青なの
What was she saying?
匠が
Takumi, can you explain it to me? What sort of color is blue?
どんな色
I don't know. It's the color of the sky.
あの色の
But that is the only color I have ever seen in the sky. But everyone knows what kind of color blue is. How has he not picked up on it already? This nigga's stupid.
だから
I do not. Please explain to me, without an example of this time, what sort of color is
ど
blue?
んな色なのか
Without an example, how was I supposed to? I tried thinking of a way to explain it, but I came up empty-handed. I just couldn't come with a way to describe the color blue. Upon noticing my complete loss for words, Ayase gave me a sad smile.
世界は
I told you, there are 6.7 billion worlds.
空の色
Meaning there are 6.7 billion ways of seeing what the sky is.
みんな
You cannot assume that everyone sees this thing the same way as you. The scenery went back to normal. This color was my world's. Ayase, do you always see the world like that? Ayase gave a slight nod.
生まれた時
Ever since the day I was born,
それ
I
が
thought that was just how things
当たり
were,
前のことだ
how
と
the
思っ
world
て
was
いた
structured.
世界の構造として。でも違う。
But I suppose I was wrong.
今
Something I only learned when you
匠の
told me,
話を聞い
Takumi.
て理解できたわ。
あの黒いもやは
What's that black
何
miasma?
写真
A wicked heart.
誰でも
Everyone has one as long as they are human. Gladiol feeds upon those wicked hearts in order to manifest.
グラジオールの糧となり形を作り出していく。見えた
Did you see them? The negative delusions of man? Wait, what was the static causing negative delusions to bubble to the surface? Was that why I'd been seeing all that inhuman savagery?
私は昔
I have always seen them.
見てきた。黒騎士なら
I am sure all Black Knights can to varying degrees.
みんな見えているはずよ。そこにある
They are homed in nothing but true malice, pure, unadulterated desire.
私の欲望
Had Ayase been seeing a world like that ever since she was born?
匠
Takumi,
私が望む
the ending I wish for
この
is one where we break our souls free from this corroded world.
抜け出すこと。そのために
And to do that, we must overthrow
グラ
Glacio.
ジオールを倒さなければならないのよ。
Ayase moved closer to me.
だから
So please,
見つけて。
find it.
あとは匠
You are our only hope, Takumi.
理想と
Please find your D
見
sword.
つけて。
無理だ
I can't. Unable to bear it any longer, I pushed Ayase away by her shoulders. Her eyes opened wide in shock.
なぜ
Why?
諦
Are
め
you
る
giving up?
僕は
I'm not this amazing person you think I am, Ayase.
人間じゃないどれだけ
No matter how much I want it, how much I wish for it, it doesn't feel like I'm ever getting close to a D sword. It was the same back at O Front, and it stayed the same ever since the earthquake. I can't figure out how to do it, so I know that I can't and won't get a D sword. I never will.
入れられないよ自信が
I have no faith in myself.
それなら
Then why did you save me?
助けたの
Ayase drew even closer. I took a step back, trying to stay away from her. What do you mean, saved you?
一体何のこと
私が学校
When I left from the school rooftop,
君が
you gave birth to a world where there was a flower bed.
だから私
And that's why I could not ascend my spirit to a higher stage.
すことはできなかったわ
That was a fluke. I hadn't done it intentionally.
それでもいい
But I am fine with that. Because of what you did, I learned of your power.
知ることができたからあの時から
From that moment on, you became my only
希
hope.
望になったから
Please don't place all your hope in someone on a whim. Please stop expecting anything from me.
匠
Takumi, you mustn't degrade yourself so.
それは
That is merely the wicked hearted king's invasion of your mental space. You cannot and must not let him win.
君には
You are
力がある
powerful, truly.
手に入れられた
Come what may, you will obtain your D sword. I know you will. I told you it's impossible. I
無理だよ
can't. Before I had thought that, I might as well just stick with Ayase. I had no one that could have protected me after all, but the more time we spent together, it was very clear to me. I couldn't understand how Ayase thought at all. The world in our minds perceived the world around us was just too great. And if I was being honest, I was fed up with how fucking batshit insane she was. She was a complete mental case through and through. And there definitely isn't any influence from the fact that she sees the world as a fucking corroded mess! I really am a horrible person. I've always been that way. I've never changed. True!
なぜそんなこと
How could you say that? Ayase clung to me, tears welling in her eyes. It wasn't the calm, aloof Ayase I was used to.
私は
I do not want to stay in a world like this any longer.
ごめんなさい
Please, set me free.
私は私の
You are my only
希
hope.
望になって黒騎士とし
You
て
must awaken as a Black Knight.
無理だよ
I can't.
無理じゃない
Yes, you can! I synchronized with her world once again. A black miasma poured out of Ayase's chest and entwined itself around my body. It slithered around the top of my skin like an anaconda slowly strangling its prey to death. Its repulsive, chilling presence was enough to give me goosebumps. It was Ayase's pure, adulterated desire. I, just like any person, wasn't used to seeing people's naked emotions. A flash of static.
君は私
You are my only hope. Ayase stared at me, her eyes dyed pitch black.
君を
I will not let you go.
津波
You will stay with me no matter what I must do to meet that end. Ayase's fingers started doing my jackets one by
君を
one.
欲しい
I want you. She was as close as she could possibly be. Like the time we made out in the hospital room closet. I was like a deer in headlights. I couldn't move. When she finished undoing all my buttons, my chest was exposed. But she didn't stop. She moved down, took off my belt, and unzipped my pants. I want your power. Ayase's ice-cold fingers caressed my chest, and then her nails dug into me. The pain was so intense, and yet I still couldn't move an inch.
欲しい
I want it. Her fingers gouged my flesh. They raked their ways to my bones. Her hand reached deep inside, then gently embraced my pounding heart. Is she gonna start saying Aishiteru? I was trembling, out of fear, out of pain, out of the cool sensation of Ayase's fingers.
あったか
It is so warm.
い俺
May I have it? Stop! I could feel my blood vessels exploding. Copious amounts of blood spilled from my chest. She took it out. My heart, she... The world switched colors, and in an instant, it gone back to its original dull color. The rest had vanished, and I was completely unharmed. I put my hand on my chest. Thankfully, I could feel it beating. My heart was still there. Ayase was standing in front of me, clutching herself with both arms. She looked so incredibly sad, like she was about to burst into tears any moment. There it was again, the same look she had when she'd taken USD sword. Same look she had when I'd seen her world back at the Scramble Crossing. The same as when she had obtained Senna and Kozue's D-swords. Ayase looked at me on the verge of tears, doing everything she could to hold them back. Takumi,
そんなつ
I
もりじゃ
did not mean to do that.
写真を
My wicked heart
背
is
が高く
spiraling out of control.
私も取り込みすぎやすい
Perhaps
かもしれない
because I took in too many D-swords.
写真を
I am descending into madness brought forth by the wicked-hearted king's erosion of my mind. Wasn't it all just another one of her delusions? Wasn't it all just fake worlds meant to trick me? Those thoughts suddenly came to mind, but I didn't say them out loud. I just couldn't. Ayase was a girl who rarely showed any emotion, with her unwavering tone giving her clear command of any conversation she ever had. That's why it was so hard to see her like this. I had never seen her so sad before. She looked so fragile, like she could fall apart even at the slightest touch. Because of that, I knew I couldn't tell her what I was really thinking.
僕は
What should I do?
どうすればいい
When those words left my lips, the slightest of tears began to flow from the corner of her eyes. She looked to me with a gaze that showed how much she truly needed me.
私は
I am being subjugated by the wicked-hearted king.
写真王の攻撃によってこのまま
If nothing is done,
自我を保て
I will not be able to remain myself. Therefore,
取り除いて
excise it. Excise the impurity, the erosion of my wicked heart. Excise it? How?
どうやって
You saw my world, did you not?
あの
That black miasma, it's the manifestation of the impurity dwelling within people's wicked hearts. Their true malice.
悪意それを作り
Grasp that and uproot it from my body.
引き抜いて
There was no way I could never do something so horrifying. Please, Takumi.
匠私は 私でいたいの。私の世界を救って。
Losing her balance, Ayase fell to the ground. Her figure was as frail as could be. But we had made a promise to each other, one she had said herself.
君を守るわ。君も私を守って。
Senna and Kozubi had already broken, and Rimi was nowhere to be found. I didn't want to lose Ayase too. There was an element of selfishness to it, but most of all, I wanted to help her. I was fully aware that it wasn't within my ability to do so. But still, even if Ayase was really some crazy, hopelessly insane girl, even if all of it was just her delusion, I wanted to help her with all my heart. But right as I realized that sentiment, the world turned to rust yet again. The snake-shaped black miasma pouring out of Ayase's chest reared its head. Just looking at it made me feel sick. It felt like something was pressing down on my chest, and I couldn't look away. But even if I could, it wouldn't change anything. That's why I knew I had to try and face it head on. But I couldn't bear it. It felt like my chest was being crushed. My migraine was splitting my head apart. I couldn't do it. I never could have. I didn't have the strength to help anyone. I looked up in response to Ayase's call. She held her hand out to me. Her tear-filled eyes locked with mine. She showed complete trust in me. Or perhaps, was she depending on me? I'd never had someone depend on me before. My mind was about to crumble, but Ayase's voice just barely managed to keep it together. I bit my lip and then I took a single step toward Ayase. With me as its new prey, the black miasma moved toward me and entwined itself around my neck. It was so cold, it nearly tricked my mind into thinking it was hot. It eased me into its embrace, but all the while it was strangely strangling me to death. Ayase leaned against me. Her body had gone completely limp. I was forced to support her entire body weight. I tightly embraced her slender hips. Are you really sure about this? Nigga, what are you about to do? What are you about to do? With a gulp, I reached my hand toward the black miasma pouring out of her chest. Following only an ephemeral moment, the miasma changed form into that of a black leech, an act that only served to make it all the more repulsive. That was Ayase's wicked heart laid bare. The most hideous part of herself she didn't want anyone else to see. This was what the mass was. I took hold of the leech's body. It was extremely slippery and it was so cold that it stung my palm. I wanted to let go the second I grabbed it, but in a desperate attempt to hold on, I clenched my teeth and endured it. Ayase groaned in pain, her face a horrid mixture of ecstasy and agony. I tried pulling with all my might, but I could feel her flesh being torn apart. Black liquid burst from her chest, covering my body from head to toe. Whether it was blood or something else, I didn't know. Despite all this, I pressed on, pulling on the leech as hard as I could. Are you okay? Unable to take her screams any longer, I stopped my hands in place. Even though her body was drenched in sweat, Ayase firmly reassured me. I couldn't hesitate again. If I did, I'd only be torturing her. Using every ounce of strength I had, I grasped the leech and pulled it out. Ayse's body twisted and writhed. The leech slithered around. It was a lot longer than I thought it would be. The leech curled into a circular mass, then wrapped itself around my arm. It tightened hard against my fist. I guess it was the Wicked Heart's last stand. I clenched my teeth to endure the pain. I was glad that I'd gotten it off of Ayase at least, but I wasn't sure what to do with it now.
命って
Having entrusted her entire body to me, Ayase gently caressed my cheek.
不浄なる邪心は君の手で純粋な邪心へと変わるわ。
The black wicked heart wriggling my arm suddenly shone violet. The sound burst forth from it. A sound so shrill it was akin to the loudest of screams. The wicked heart turned into a sword. Is this a D-sword? I'd wanted one so bad, but I'd never been able to get one no matter how hard I tried. But now it was finally in my grasp. Ayase's wicked heart had transformed into a sword.
目覚めたのね。匠。
Even amid her intense pain, Ayase smiled in my arms. Sweat ran down her brow profusely, adhering her bangs to her forehead.
ありがとう。目覚めてくれて。
What had I done to deserve her gratitude? I didn't know. I had no faith in myself.
匠。
Ayase draped her hands around my neck, and then she tightly embraced me.
君だけ
You are
を私の
the
話を
only one.
真面目に聞い
The
て
only one to ever listen to me.
嬉しかっ
I am overjoyed.
た。すごく
Truly overjoyed. Ayase's body was really warm. The black liquid on her chest was slowly turning red. Her blood stained my clothes. But I didn't care. I held Ayase tightly in acceptance. She still had trouble breathing. I could feel the back tremble with each breath. The smell of her sweat rose in the air. And even that part of her was as lovely as the rest.
大好き。
Has Ayase fallen in love with me? I may or may not depend on her, but I know she depends on me. So I don't think a relationship like this will be too bad. Just the two of us. Is it gonna turn white? Suddenly, the sky behind Ayase's shoulders caught my attention. It was changing from vermilion to black, but only in a single spot, or perhaps it was merely an illusion. The spot in reality was just a star. Nonetheless, the spot grew bigger. If it continued at such a speed, it would soon blanket the entire sky.
なんだ
What
あれ
is that? I mumbled that to myself, completely dumbfounded. Also noticing the unnatural phenomenon, Ayase quickly stood back up, using my shoulders to help her do so.
あれが
It is the awakened heart king.
ついに死
His invasion has finally begun.
結局
In the end, was I too late?
間に合わなかったというの。もう止め
Can
ら
I
れ
do
ない
nothing to stop it?
そんなこと
That I cannot accept. Ayase brought forth her D-sword, materializing it from empty space. What are you planning to do?
グラジオル
What was written by Glacial Book of Psalms and Revelation. Once the 7 D-swords are gathered, the colossal serpent of darkness shall appear. It is the embodiment of the purity of wicked hearts, one wicked heart capable of slaughtering another. A being that can devour the corrosion, shatter the wicked heart king's body, and instill heterodomy in his homogeneity. We must make a colossal serpent appear, so that it may overthrow Glacial.
倒すために
Ayase was still trembling, and yet she readied her D-sword all the same. She closed her eyes the very next moment. It almost seemed like she was meditating. But even after watching a moment, nothing happened. Meanwhile, the sky turned fully black. If I didn't know better, I would have thought it was nighttime. No, the sun hadn't set. It was the black miasmata amalgamated into a mist that was spreading across Shibuya. Transforming into a wave, it sought to drown the city's wicked hearts. It slowly crept over the rubble-filled earth, painting every inch it touched black. Silently it eroded. It swept over our feet. A croak of despair came from my mouth. The corroded world was now rotting away. Decomposed, crumbled, and then it all returned to nothing. People, corpses, and debris alike. Everything slowly melted together, and from the amalgam came an overpowering rotten stench.
綾瀬、どうにかならないの？
どうして？
Why? Ayase wasn't responding to me. She simply stared at the D-sword she held in her hands, her eyes on the verges of tears.
ディソードが7
We collected all 7 D-swords, so why does it not
どう
appear?
して現れないの？このままじゃ
If left unbatted,
グラジオールに世界を
Glacio would swallow the
飲み込まれて
world
しまう
whole.
やっぱり
Did I truly have to gather all 7 Black Knights themselves?
どうしようもなかった。予言通り
I must have had to follow the prophecy precisely,
だったの
and I failed. Black Wave was growing even faster than before. It had only been up to my ankles a few seconds ago, but now it was already up to my knees. Strangely enough, I felt some resistance to the flow of it. Did it have physical substance? Was it really not just a Simpson illusion? Filled with horror, a shiver ran down my spine. Shibuya was actually going to rot away.
綾瀬が妄想すればいい。グラジオールを倒す妄想を。
Unable to hold it any longer, I screamed at her, but Ayase just shook her head.
私の妄
The
想
books of
じゃない
Glacio are not my
グ
delusion.
ラジオール記は
Even
僕にも綾瀬にもその予言をねじ曲げて新しい妄想を現実にすることは可能なはずだろう。それがギガのマニアックス、いや黒騎士なんだろう。
でも
But
匠
Ayase steered my way, her gaze pleading with me.
わからないの。どうすればいいのか。
Oh God. I was at a loss for words. The world was covered by a black miasma. The sky was pitch black, darkening out all day and night. Not even a single star remained. The black wave was already up to my hips. It felt like it was going to be washed away by its current any second now. It took away everything I had to stay standing. The corpse beside me melted into the liquid and then was swept away by the churning waters. If I let it swallow me up, that was exactly what would happen to me too. The mere thought terrified me so much I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs. What do I do? What the hell do I do? I desperately tried to think of a solution, but I couldn't come up with any. I was no hero. I was just an otaku freak. And even though I'd finally gotten a D-sword, I had no idea how to use it. So that had ended up just being as useless as me. Everyone would be better off if I just died. I should just get impaled by a bunch of stakes and bleed out, like in the Crucifixion case. But right when I thought that, I suddenly remembered something. The song Fess had written. Their lyrics.
歌を
Sing.
歌うんだ。
Sing a song. Despite how it must have sounded, it wasn't something I'd come up with at the last resort. No, I was convinced that it was the best and only solution I could have come up with.
歌で綾瀬の妄想を世界に拡散させるんだ。
And if the world she spun with them captivated the youth of Shibuya, the Glacial Saga was a legend of dubious authenticity that might or might not have been true. It could have been Ayase's delusion, and she was the only one who had knowledge of it. But that didn't matter. The legend had been spread to the youth of Shibuya through Phantasm songs. Therefore, mutual recognition had already been achieved.
だから歌うんだ。
Jesus Christ.
グラジオールを倒す歌を歌ってよ、フェス。
歌えというの。この状況で。
歌を歌うことで導きが現れるって前に言ってたじゃないか。
そうね。言ったわ。そして
And then
あのライ
I
ブ
came to meet you at
匠と出会
that
い
concert, Takumi.
匠
Takumi. Ayase extended her hand to me. I took her hand in my own and squeezed it tightly.
匠は好き私の歌
Yeah.
うん。
I'd listened to the album I bought from that concert many times. I'd left the concert early due to my fear of crowds, but she made me want to try again and again and again, however many times it would take. Seeing me nod along, Ayase smiled blissfully.
ここで滅びても別にいいかもしれない。匠がそう言ってくれたから。歌うわ。聞いていて、匠。
Ayase closed her eyes, took a few moments to focus, before finally letting out a deep breath. Then she opened her eyes. She was no longer Ayase anymore. She was Fess from Phantasm.
最下に契約の地を。
She quietly murmured the song's name, and then she burst into song. Her voice reverberated toward the pitch black sky.
闇夜を切り裂き月光を浴びて幾千もの鉄鎚は汝の痛みとなりて今解き放たれる。やがて叫びは宙に舞い、夜空は赤く染まるだろう。十字の杭は力となり、やがて聖域へとたどり着く。
The lyrics were a hint.
綾瀬、杭を打つんだ。
This song wasn't prophesizing the crucifixion case at all.
7本の偽装度を合わせて闇夜に打ち込むんだ。
There was no doubt in my mind. It was a song meant to throw Gladiol. A song to release Ayase from her world corroded by rust and red.
綾瀬の世界を壊せ。
Ayase stared at me. Her eyes burned with a fiery passion. Ayase looked her most beautiful when she was singing. Her energy had completely changed. The damsel in distress from before was nowhere to be seen. Ayase understood what I was trying to say. Without saying a word, she nodded. I poured all my strength into our joined hands, and then, while desperately fighting against the power of the Black Wave, I entrusted my D-sword to Ayase. The moment she grabbed it, it was engulfed in a red light and swiftly disappeared. But it hadn't been destroyed. As if it had been guided there, the red light was taken in by Ayase's D-sword, because he's the Messiah and she's the guide. Once I knew that for sure, I let go of Ayase's hand. Ayase unleashed her power as a Black Knight. An enormous burst of wind came forth, blasting the world with enough force to make everything around her tremble. The Black Wave was struck by that pressure, turning into a whirlpool. There wasn't a fragment of her usual indifference in her anymore. Ayase took a stance. She spread the legs, lowered her hips, and held her sword high. Her whole body was overflowing with not just strain, but a strong will. The will to look toward the future. She was just barely able to hold back her urge for pure destruction. She had to wait for the perfect opportunity to unleash it all. The red flicker of the sword grew faster. That sword is which bends fate to its will. That sword is that which converges all sorrows. That sword is that which interferes with the most transcendental place. Fueled by wicked hearts designed to rend unders, its edge was double. It was the manifestation of all cries for salvation that arose from Ayase's soul, an embodiment of Ayase's chaotic heart. Ayase's gaze was focused on a single point. The black heavens. The ones that shrouded my blue sky. The ones that shrouded Ayase's red sky. A sky born from all the impurity dwelling within wicked hearts. One that brought nothing but darkness to the world. The only thing I could do was pray. Would the Black Knight's triumph, or would Gladiol prevail? Our fate was resting on Ayase's shoulders. And yet, for some inexplicable reason, I knew. Just as foretold in the legend that Ayase had orchestrated, we would never lose to the wicked-hearted king. So Ayase, strike it. Strike it and pierced through the world itself.
天国の扉。
Her entire body curved like a bow being drawn. Then, with all the strength vested in her, she cast her shot forth. The sword carved a trail of light, blew away the darkness with a loud bloom, and pierced through the vermilion heavens. And it completely penetrated it. The sky began to crack. The crack spread throughout the entire sky, and before long, accompanied by a flood of sound, the entire world shattered. I feel like I fucked up. When I came to, the brilliant light had returned to the world. The sky was blue, the color that couldn't be put into words. And yet I knew the sky I was looking at right now was most definitely blue. Gladio must have been overthrown. At the very least, the black miasma plaguing the world had disappeared. And now a warm, soft hand tightly clasped my own. Ayase was standing by my side, looking up to the exact same sky I was. Without saying a word, tears poured from her eyes.
青はあんなに美しい色をしていたのね。
見えるの？
見えるわ。匠が見ているのと同じ色の空が。
And what a clear color it was. So clear I could feel it in my chest. So clear it almost hurt to look at. Who knew that the sky above was so clear? Before now I had never once realized. Shibuya was in shambles, transformed into a city of death. Not even a glimmer of its former glory was left in it. And yet, Ayase, appearing more dazzling than ever, fondly looked over it all.
世界はこんなにも美しいのね。
And with those words, Ayase gently clasped my hand. Woo! Closing thoughts. Do I like Sun and Moon more? Yes. There was a point in time where I was saying to myself, this is going to be not that good, and my expectations were very overblown. And that's not really that true. Is it plot contrivance bullshit that Ayase just managed to find Nanami and Rimi's D-swords so that Takumi could stay unaware as to that they're gigalomaniacs? Yes. I really do like that, unlike in Daydream and Sun and Moon, Takumi actually awakened to his D-sword for once. I don't really like that he just like sees that this is this thing this girl believes in as much as anybody does with their religion, and he's just like, "You stupid bitch, that's a delusion." But Takumi's always a piece of shit, and yet he always locks in when he needs to. I don't remember exactly which sentence it was, but when he said it, I knew. When he said, "But I wanted to help her," when he was going on about how, yes, it's selfish that I want to help her, but I know above all else, I truly do want to help her. I knew that Takumi Nishijo stepped out the building for a second so Takumi Nishijo could come in and save the fucking day. Also, if we really want to talk about it, this is so far the most production quality put into one of the character-specific endings since she got an entire animation for the thing going up and shattering the world to blue. I think with both Daydream and Sun and Moon and this one, what it is that, and with a lot of pieces of media, it's that the very end is the best part because that's the climax. And now that doesn't mean that the journey to it is a boring slog that is low quality. No, I have a bit of like attention span. That's the word I was looking for. I do have an attention span and a form of literacy. So it's not like I think that just because they were talking means that it was boring or bad. But I do think that Sun and Moon wasn't carried as heavily by the ending as Daydream and A Contract of Blood to Seal Our Sin was. Sun and Moon answered so many questions about Yua. Now, Ayase is one of the characters that in the main route of the story has the most questions answered about her. How does she awaken to her D-Sword? Well, we get to see her Chinese water torture without having to go on her character-specific route. It's things like that that are questions that would have needed to be answered. But Ayase gets a lot of love in the main story anyways, so there are not a lot of questions that need to be answered about her, allowing the route to fully focus on her as a character. Right? Nanami's route felt mostly like a dating sim. There's questions about Nanami that weren't answered, and not every question needs to be answered. I already have just completely stopped caring about where the fuck Rimi and Nanami were in this scenario. Did she kill them? Why didn't Daisuke call to say anything? Because he's a bitch, and she probably didn't. She probably just found them dead outside of O-Front because their minds had been taken. Had been slaughtered. Not every question has to be answered, but when questions are answered, it's nice, you know? And like there's questions about Nanami that I wanted answered that weren't, and I wouldn't have minded if Daydream wasn't so much of a little sister dating sim compared to how Sun and Moon and A Contract of Blood to Seal Our Sin are a lot more about who who Mia and Ayase are. Sun and Moon is literally just about, hey, we did so much with Yua, but we didn't answer any of it. So here you go. And Daydream is, we want to fuck our little sisters. And A Contract of Blood to Seal Our Sin is, okay, we just really like Ayase. We really like Ayase. And I really like Ayase. Also, this is what? The second of these endings where Takumi gets a girlfriend. The only other one being Daydream. So yeah, Daydream is really just little sister dating sim. But hey, at least A Contract of Blood to Seal Our Sin is a Minhera dating sim. There's more I want to say and can't just remember right now, but I have to take a shit, so I'm just gonna go ahead and